technologies can bridge the continental divide, and how to empower Filipino authors to pursue their publishing dreams outside the Philippines. So are we excited? Okay po. So by the way, I'm Kay. I will be the room coordinator. With me is Miss Maya, Miss Jari, and Miss Rita. Okay po. So let's start. So to introduce our speakers, so first po is Miss Cara Bodegon. So ayan. So Miss Cara Bodegon is an author illustrator from Manila who works as a music journalist. She has an ongoing webcomic called Squalo and Mage, which follows the adventures of an angry mage and a great pink shark who can swim as they discover creatures from Filipino folklore. Her artwork has appeared on the collector's edition of Angie Thomas' best-selling novel, The Hate You Give. So that's Miss Cara Bodegon. Next speaker will be Miss Kate Evangelista. When Kate Evangelista, author of The Boyfriend Bracket and the Dodge Cover Trilogy, No Love Allowed, No Holding Back, and No Second Chances, was told she had a knack for writing stories. She did the next best thing, entered medical school. After realizing she wasn't going to be the next Doogie Howser, MD Kate wandered into the literature department and never looked back. Today, she is a graduate of De La Salle University, Manila, with a Bachelor of Arts in Literature and a Master's in Creative Writing. Based in the Philippines, she also teaches creative writing for grade 11 and 12. Miss Kate is represented by Don Frederick of Red Sofa Literary. So that's for Miss Kate Evangelista. Our third speaker, so Miss Rin Chupeco. Rin Chupeco is the author of several young adult books published in the U.S., including The Girl from the Well, its sequel, The Suffering, and the Bone Witch Trilogy, all from Source Books. Her next series is The Never Tilting World Duology and Wicked As You Wish, the first book in the 100 Names for Magic series. Her short stories are also featured in the food anthology Hungry Hearts and the Edgar Allan Poe anthology His Hideous Hearts. So let's welcome again Ms. Rin Chupeco, our third speaker. Next po is Ms. Steph Tran. So Ms. Steph Tran is a Vietnamese Filipino young adult author, poet, and freelance editor. She has a BFA in creative writing from Ateneo de Manila University and a Master in MPhil in creative writing from Trinity College Dublin in Ireland. Her poems were recently published in the Stinging Fly, Memoir Mixtapes, and the Achieve of the Mastery, an anthology of Filipino poetry in English published by the University of the Philippine Press, among others. Her young adult novels are about the power of music, the importance of mental health, family, and friendship, and what it means to be a teen in the Philippines today. Steph is represented by Josh Getzer of HSG Agency. So again, Ms. Steph Tran. And for the last speaker, Ms. Gail Villanueva is a Filipino author born and based in the Philippines. She is also a web designer and entrepreneur and a graphic artist. She loves pineapple pizza, seafood, and chocolate, but not in a single dish together. Gail and her husband live in the outskirts of Manila with their dogs, ducks, turtles, cats, and one friendly but lonesome chicken. Her middle grade debut novel, My Fate According to the Butterfly, is coming from Scholastic Press on July 30, 2019. So Miss Gail is represented by Alisa Asher Henkin of Trident Media Group. So let's all welcome our 5 speakers for this session. So I'll now give the mic to Miss Rin.
All right, first off, we're going to be very informal when it comes to this panel, mostly because we had different routes and different methods of getting our own agents and getting our book deals. So we like to rely really heavily on the Q&A portion for the most part, because we've also got a few giveaways for those who ask the really good questions. And so before that, though, we do have some general terms when we talk about looking for agents and for querying. Yeah, I'm gonna move closer. All right, so this is us. Okay, one of the general terms that we would like to define first and foremost is what is an agent. So an agent is basically a middleman between an author and their publishers, and they also take 15% commission on all books, all audios, etc. that they sell on your behalf. So, if for example you have 3 books out and you get a book deal for all of them, they get 15% commission on all the sales that you get from those books. So that sounds like a lot, but it's actually very, for us, we really think that it's worth it. Because the agent is basically who your go-between between like publishers and authors in general, which also means which basically means they're the reasons why books actually get to publishers under the publisher's radar in the first place, because most publishers in the United States do not actually ask for unsolicited manuscripts. Unsolicited manuscripts means you can't email them like a pitch of your book and they're going to read it or they're going to accept it. They're only going to accept your books if they come through agents. So agents are really important in the publishing system. So another term that we'd like you guys to know is the term querying. So what exactly is querying? It's basically sending a resume, except you're pitching your work to the agent or the literary agency. We're going to give some examples of query letters, specifically query letters that I sent that got me my agent, and also query letter that Gail sent, which got her agent. But at a glance, it's basically an introduction of yourself, a pitch of your book, which is basically X meets Y. So it's like Harry Potter meets Hunger Games. That's how you pitch the book, so that the agent sort of gets an idea of what your book's about. Then there's a brief summary of your book, plus the agent requirements to be submitted. Because some agents are going to ask you for like, okay, when you submit to us, we're going to need 10 pages of the first 10 pages of your book, or the first chapter, or the whole manuscript. It really varies from agency to agency. And if they're interested, they're going to email you again. They're going to ask you for your full work if they haven't asked for it already. And then finally, if they want to represent your book, they're going to call you specifically and officially offer you your representation. So basically, we all go through this route in our own different ways. And we're gonna start off with Steph.
Hi everyone, again I'm Steph. I'm represented by Josh Getzler of HSG. I'm the newest to all of this actually because I've only been agented for a little over 6 months. I signed with Josh in November 2018.
And then at DVPIT, I received a full request for a read immediately. And I immediately signed with that agent and went on submission the following year. So, going on submission is, when the agent sends it out to editors. But while that was in the process of getting, possibly getting the attention of editors, I started making this mini comic series called Squalo and Mage. And later on, things weren't panning out with my agent, so I decided to leave her. Um, Thanks to Gail, because she's like, leave her already. And also my fiance over there. So I decided to leave my agent in January 2019. And also, if you guys get an agent and she's not very good, and you decide to leave her, it's okay to break up with them over the holidays. Yeah, it's different there. It's like, I know Christmas time. Walang ganyan. So after that, I immediately started querying again with my YA contemporary novel, but to no avail. I didn't get any requests for a full read, so I was just like, oh no, my life sucks. And so uh, in April, in April, there was an announcement for another edition of DV Pit, but it was the very first one where author illustrators were welcome to pitch. So I was like, Gail, oh my God, there's this thing happening. And Gail's like, yeah, you should totally join. And I was like, oh no, I'm not ready. But then she's like, just do it. So with the author illustrators for DV Pit, you can pitch as a work for hire illustrator. So that's basically like you do book covers, your artwork will appear in magazines and all those sorts of things. And like author illustrators, if you make like graphic novels, comics, picture books, that kind of stuff. And I pitched Squalo and Mage, and I absolutely did not have a script for it yet. Yay! But then Gail was like, pitch it anyway. So I completed a script for Squalo and Mage in 3 weeks, and then sent it out to agents who requested it because it got a lot of really good feedback. Like, oh, I want to see this. I need this book yesterday. Stuff like that. And I was like, oh no, because Gail kasi. All Gail's fault. And then so, yeah, that is my journey so far. Just waiting on these agents, so you could do that too. Okay.
Hi. Oh my God. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Kate, and thank you for coming. We also gave out handouts for you. No? So it's all here. The websites that you can visit if you want to query agents, want to be part of the DVPIT and PitMad and whatnot. They are inside. And also, I have also added the query letters of Rin and Gail inside so that you get to see firsthand what a query that is successful looks like. Okay? Because that's very important. Because think of it like a cover letter. Okay? When you're applying for a job. And yes, being an author is a job as well. It's not just about our passions. So, my journey is a bit of a roundabout journey, actually. I started writing in high school only because my second year English teacher assigned us to write a short story. So if you're a teacher, you might be responsible for a budding writer. You never know. Because I teach grade 11 and 12 as well, creative writing. And I will tell you now, my girls, their talents scare me. They're really, really good. And I really hope some of them pursue it. Okay, so, because with my teacher, she said, there's something here. And from there, I used my father's electric typewriter and started typing away these stories. I would bind them myself using the best bond paper and scented marbled paper as covers, and brought them to school and had people read them. And by the time when people were reading them, I sort of felt like when the bullies read your work and they stop bullying you for a while because they're reading your work, you're like, I'm doing something, right? So, but I never thought of writing as a career, not even then, which is why, I went into medical school, really. Because, your parents would be like, anak, yung kikita ka, anak, palagi namang may nagkakasakit, anak. May pera dyan. Pero, I don't know if some of you remember that commercial, pa, makashift na ako sa fine arts. I did the same thing. I walked into my parents' room and said, I'm shifting to literature. But I didn't even realize that I was going to be a writer then. I was going to be a teacher. That was my thing. But I continued writing in college. Okay, the only time I really realized writing could be a career when I read Twilight. Because I was like, if she can do it, I can do it too. So, I mean, okay, they're not the best example, as we know. It's a polarizing book, as we know. I wish I could have said F. Scott Fitzgerald. When I read his book, I'm like, I can do it too. No, it's Stephanie Meyer, Twilight. I can do it too. So it's that thing that gave me a push off my writing couch potato, and I'm like, I'm gonna write. So I did. And so I started really querying in 2012. Okay? When I knew nothing of querying. I knew nothing of publishing. I knew nothing actually. I just had a book that I wanted to pitch. And the thing is, even through my nothing, I landed an agent. Okay? And at the time, he was the agent for the Wrinkle of Time books as well. So he was, whoa. He was like holding books that I do not even feel like I would be in the same league as. But he's like, I'll take a chance on you, kid. I'm like, thank you. So Twitter was still young then, and social media was still young then. So I made a lot of mistakes on Twitter that you're not supposed to tweet things. And because my agent would often say, you weren't supposed to tweet that, or don't tweet me, email me. So when you get an agent, don't tweet them. It's better if you email them. Okay, tweet them fun stuff, but don't tweet them business stuff. Okay. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. We parted ways. It's fine to part ways with your agent, by the way. It's your choice as an author. I did the same as Cara. We parted ways because I felt like the editors he was submitting to were not, the ones. And definitely they rejected the book. So I was like, maybe this is not working out. So what I did, instead of requerying to other agents, I went to smaller presses. Because at the time, and then I thought to myself, if the smaller presses wouldn't take my book, I would self-publish. Self-publishing was just making its mark at that time, and it disappeared. Why? What did I do? Okay, anyway. Amanda Hawking, if you're familiar with her, she was the self-publishing YA novelist at the time because she was the first to sell like 1 million copies, and just by self-publishing. So that's, I think, when self-publishing really gained its weight as an option for authors. It's not necessarily a, oh, self-published lang yan. It's not that anymore. Okay, self-publishing is its own platform. Okay, um, so by a chance, before my December 2012 deadline, Crescent Moon Press took my debut novel, and it actually became an Amazon bestseller at the time. Um, and then from there, I submitted to Omnific and Entangled. Omnific and Entangled are now also partners with Simon & Schuster and Macmillan. Those big publishers distribute the books for them. So it gives them more access, right? So it's a roundabout way of finally, after I attended, because Entangled has this yearly Las Vegas Writers conference where I wrote No Love Allowed in 2 weeks, which landed me in the emergency room right after. I thought I was having a heart attack, but thankfully it was just a pinched nerve on my neck that was affecting my arm. So I was like having like these tingles on my arm, and I was like, "Mom, I'm dying. Bring me to the emergency room right now." And so I learned not to write a book in 2 weeks. So a chapter a day is fine. Okay, so okay, so by November of 2014, I got into their third list. So that's another way. Soon Reads accepts unsolicited manuscripts through their website. So there are many publishers now who do that, but it's not necessarily the easiest way to go also, because you have to have, your novel must be really polished to be able to be chosen by them. And then by during this time, I was still querying off and on until 11 books later, I met Don. Actually, I queried Don over the years. We met through that querying process. And when I finally had the book that she really wanted, she actually told me, I was following your career over the years, and let's make this official. So it wasn't necessarily for me like that. I was querying several agents at the time. I actually just went up to her and I said, "I'm looking for representation. I'm ready." And she's like, "Okay, let's call." So we talked. And because Dawn is notoriously closed to queries, always. You can even visit her on Twitter. Close to queries. She attempted to open queries this year in June, but she's like, "I cannot. I'm too busy. We'll do it in August. I feel like it will not happen this year." Okay? Because she's really, really busy. But she made time. I made time. I I emailed all of the other agents and said, "Dawn wants this book. Do you want in?" And I got a few offers from them, but I ultimately went with Dawn. Because not actually, this is the weird thing, because a lot of a lot of people will say you need an agent that will champion your book, right? This is important. But you will also want an agent who will champion you, not just one book, who will champion you through a career as a writer. No matter the genre, no matter the kind of book you want to write. Okay, so we have been together. My next book is currently on submission, and we already have, so emails have been exchanged. That's all I can say. But I hope that you will one day read this. This is a book of my heart. Beauty and the Beast LGBTQ retelling. Okay, where the elevator pitch for this is Beauty and the Beast retelling, where the Beast falls in love with the stable boy and Beauty runs away with the librarian. Because she should have run away with the librarian, right? If there was a librarian in that story, she would have fallen in love with the librarian, not the Beast. Okay, because just think about it. Just think about it. All right, so that's what, that's my next one. That's gonna come out. So yeah, so thank you very much. If you have questions, please feel free to ask us later during the Q&A. So I'll pass it on now to Rin. Sorry, Gail.
Hi. Paano ba to? Gitna? Side. Okay, I'm Gail D. Villanueva, and my book is My Fate According to the Butterfly. It's coming out on... Sawa ko lumabas. Anyway, Shaw, can you take my picture? Anyway, sorry. Anyway, it's coming out on July 30, 2019 from Scholastic Press. It's an imprint of Scholastic, basically. So anyway, wait, there. There you go. It's gonna be available both here, also July 30. You can actually pre-order from National Bookstore and Fully Book if you want, and I hope you do. Anyway, there. The nice thing about this, so Macquarie Journey. This book, My Faith According to the Butterfly, is the book that I signed with my agent. Sometimes it doesn't happen, and I got lucky. And this also is my second book. So there's a book that failed behind this one. That's the story that I'm gonna tell you, which is, here you go. Wait. It's not clicking yan. In 2014, I finished the first draft of my book. November din, parang sila, NaNoWriMo. There. In 2015, yung emojis ko, hindi nakita. In 2015, yan, I did the querying no-nos. I barely edited the book that I wrote in November. And then, I joined the pitch contest and surprisingly got in. Tapos, I queried a barely edited book. So, naturally, I got rejections. Kasi talaga pagka nag-query ka ng hindi mo i-edit properly, wala ka talagang makukuha. It's really, unless super talented ka. So, yeah. In 2016, I worked with Kate Master through the Writing in the Margins program. And then in mid-2016, I wrote My Fate According to the Butterfly in 1.5 months kasi super inspired talaga ako when I wrote that. And then I joined DV Pit, and then I was also mentored by Erin and Tara Kelly. She wrote The Land of Forgotten Girls, tsaka Hello Universe. Yeah, you guys might know her. Newberry. She won a Newberry, and I was so lucky that she decided to, decide to mentor me. So that's one of the things about Twitter. If swertehin ka talaga, may makikilala ka somebody like Erin. Actually met her through Facebook and through the Writing in the Margins program. Parang common friend of a common friend. Tapos sabi niya, you know what? I'm gonna mentor you. And that's the reason why most of the time I also take part in mentoring program kagaya ng Pitch Wars. Yeah, and that's why I keep insisting on, napansin yun, parang ang dami kong pinakialam ng query journeys, di ba? So, yeah, hindi naman sa pakialamera ako. I'm just like, paying it forward. So anyway, after that, I queried in January 3. This is my sister's birthday. And by the way, my book is strong sibling elements. It's really inspired by my sister. So, there. On Feb 9, I got my first offer of rep. So, in gist, this is my, yeah, there. Feb 15, sa kanila, it would be Valentine's Day, kaya naaalala ng agent ko lagi pag nag-anniversary kami. I signed with Evangelista, and she's totally my dream agent. Kasi she actually reps really great books like R.J. Palacios Wonder, Julie Berry. Ano yung book ni Julie Berry? Yung may war. Recent, what's that book? War? Something war. Basta something war. Anyway, so I think you probably can see it. Julie Berry, basta nakalimutan ko na. YA it. I think it's a YA book. Anyway, there's other, so siyempre medyo superstar, kaya siyempre tayo, Filipina, parang, in a way, medyo insecure, na parang, oh my God, I'm gonna be a Filipino brown speck in her list. Pero, you have to get over that. And, just go for it. Might as well. Like, anyway, so it happened. Wait, sorry, medyo, yeah. These are my stats. I sent queries for my first book to 56 agents. My rejections are very many. The people who didn't reply to me are a lot. Not requests, the people who requested aren't many either, of course. Offers of Rep Zero. For my second book, ito kasi talagang napulido with Erin's help pa talaga. So, iba pag kami nagbabasa na hindi ikaw. And if you get a trained eye to look at your work, one of the best things that I learned from Erin and Trada Kelly, if you notice, if you've read her books, the one that won her a Newbery, the best thing about her writing is that she's very lyrical. She's talagang each sentence has a personality to it. Talagang style niya is kumbaga, off the roof. That's the reason why she got an award. So if somebody like that is like looking at your work, you can somehow, you know, you really learn. So I'm a huge advocate of learning. So like what they mentioned, aside from the pitch contest that you can join, we're going to have pitch wars. I'm actually the technical director of pitch wars. We're having, you can pitch your completed manuscript to a mentor sometime siguro August, I think. August, yeah. Ang gagawin nyo lang doon is that you're gonna be choosing from the mentors who represent your genre, who actually reads your genre, and then you're gonna determine if it's the right fit for them. And if they choose you, you're going to be working with them for 4 straight months. As in, nag-edit lang talaga kayo, nakatutok siya sa inyo. And then, at the end of it, magkakaroon ng showcase where agents are going to like see parang a gallery of your works. And then they're gonna comment there if they want to request. So, it's a great opportunity. And if you're new to the querying scene, it's a great way to practice. Hindi siya, kumbaga, hindi ka masya-shock. Kasi that's the thing about querying eh. Like, as you can see with my stats, like even my book 2, I sent like 32 queries. I got 10 rejections. 3 didn't reply to me. I got 19 requests. 3 of them just wanted to like read a partial of it, and then 16 requests for the entire manuscript. Then I had 4 offers of reps. Now, even in my better book, as you can call it, marami pa rin ako rejections. So, if there's one thing that you can remember is that in querying, you have to expect that every query that you will, alam mo yun, parang, you can be hopeful, but you need to be realistic. Expect rejections. So, yan ang pinaka-atik masasabi namin na expect nyo talagang ma-reject kayo. So, if you get the request or you get the offer, talagang kumaga cherry on top na lang siya. So, there. Next is Rin.
Okay, I am at that point in my career where I'm a little bit ahead of a lot of these girls here. And I have the books to prove it, so I can show them off. Yeah, let me show them off. Nag-commute na ako dito, ang bibigat. Yeah. Okay, my journey actually started really, really earlier. Like, I completed a book called The Firekeeper in 2008. The main problem with the year 2008 was that most agencies did not accept email submissions at all. They required snail mail. Do you know how much snail mail costs for like a really thick full manuscript? Back in 2008, that was $40 per snail mail. That was, I guess around now, that's like 1,600 pesos for every agency you ship to. So, you know, and it took until like 2010 for agencies to start accepting email, but not all of them, not immediately. I think the majority of agencies only started accepting by the time 2012 came around. So when you're a writer here in the Philippines and you want to have writing as your, like, you want to quit your day job and take up writing completely, and it's 2008, and nobody wants to accept your work unless it's in snail mail, which costs a whole lot, you don't feel like you have a lot of choice. But fortunately, I decided once 2010 came around, I started querying as many agencies who offered email submissions, and that wasn't enough because after 1 week of querying, the publishing atmosphere at that time wasn't as conducive to diversity. And by that, I mean, when I started querying Firekeeper, most of the emails I got back was, can't you make your character white? And that was, I feel, a compromise that I couldn't really accept. So after like a week's querying, I set it aside and I said, well, I'm not gonna make a white main character. I'm gonna keeping on until I get a character, a diverse character, person of color, that you guys are gonna accept. And so that's what I did. As soon as I set aside Firekeeper, I started working on another book. It's actually called the Natural States of Dead Girls from Wells because I'm very pretentious. And it was shortened to The Girl from the Well. When I completed it in 2011, I found an agent in 2012 because 2010 to 2012 was around the right time to submit when you're not white, I guess. Mainly because diversity was starting to take root there. A lot of diverse books were happening, and back in 2009, the first Asian book that was accepted by a really a top 6 publishing house was actually by this girl called Cindy Pod, and it was Serpentine. And after that book came out, there was slowly but surely growing marked interest in books that were written by authors of color featuring people of color. So that was a really good time to be a pioneer. And with that note, I started querying. My stats here are, for Girl from the Well, I sent 50 queries in total. I got 20 requested fulls, 10 rejected, the rest didn't respond. And in the end, I got 3 offers of representation from 3 different agents. So when you're talking to your agent, or people who want to be your agent, you really have, at the onset, you really have to know if this agent is going to sort of champion you and your work or cater to the market. So there has to be sort of a balance because naturally they can't sell books that the market won't like, but at the same time you can't compromise your ideals. And of the 3 agents who actually approached me for representation, I picked my agent, my current agent right now, who's Rebecca Podos from the Helen Reese agency, for just one thing. This is how this is how my book looks. This is The Girl from the Well. This is how it looked like when it was published as a hardcover in 2014. And my agent won me over because it's obviously like a ghost story. I pitched it as The Ring meets Dexter. So it's basically a ghost who hunts down child molesters and killers and what have you. And she won me over because she basically, while all the other 2 agents mentioned, oh, we like horror is in, it's psychological horror, it's great. She never said anything like that. Instead she goes, you know what, this is a horror, but I want to pitch it as a love story. There's a love story here and a coming of age story about a girl who just wants to belong, even though she's dead. And that's what won me over. So basically, when you're talking to your agent, you have to go with your instinct. you have to make sure that what you're saying you have to, sort of understand that what your agent is saying has to be what you want them to pitch your book as. Like, you have to make sure not to compromise on what you're writing about just to cater to the marketplace. And that's the first lesson I learned when it came to that agent. And it's been 5 years, and she's still my agent, and she's still my number one supporter and my number one cheerleader. So after that, I had a sequel, which I forgot to bring, The Suffering, 2015. From then on, it was like a snowball effect happening, because once they realized that my book sold pretty well, they started asking me for books almost every year. I had book deals that were pretty good deals, and from 2014 to 2019, I had a book almost every year. So, but the one book that sort of made my name, I guess, in the U.S. was called The Bone Witch. It was also by Source Books. It's a trilogy. The last one, Shadow Glass, came out March of this year. And then from there, I was approached by Harper Teen, who asked me if I wanted to make a duology with them. And that duology was called The Never Tilting World. So in regards to like how I pitch them, it's basically The Bone Witch is Memoirs of a Geisha meets The King Killer Chronicles, aka The Name of the Wind, which is gonna be like I think a series in Netflix. And then Never Tilting World was basically Mad Max versus Frozen, which sounds weird, but I guess they liked it. And I mentioned before Firekeeper, and I wanted to go back to it. And so on and off throughout the years, I started working on it again. And yeah, this is the third book of The Bone Witch, Shadow Glass. This is the first, and here's the cool thing. Sometimes you get foreign rights. This is from Russia. I have other books from rights sold in Turkey, Belgium, Spain, France, Germany. So that's the cool thing about getting an agent. She can also get you other foreign rights, if it's not world rights altogether. And along the way, once people start knowing your name, they start asking you for other things too. Like fellow authors would approach me, hey, would you like to do an anthology with us? Would you like to do other stuff with us? This is one of the anthologies that's coming out yeah, you got it. One of the anthologies coming out this year, it's called Hungry Hearts. It's basically a food anthology where different writers, different authors of color write about the culture, like their food culture through series of interconnected stories. So mine is obviously Filipino food, and it's basically like a bunch of mangkukulams are put potions in their food to make people feel better about themselves. Basically, that's it. And there's this thing also called ARCs, or ARCs, and they're called Advanced Reader Copies. This is what the Heart Forger ARC looks like. An ARC means usually bloggers get it. It's not for sale. It's only for like review sites and a lot of bloggers and people who win, say, giveaways for it. And this is the official hardcover that comes out. So designs can be different, edits can be different here. Like some stuff written here might not come out in the final copy. So there's a lot of little things that happen throughout publication that not a lot of readers understand or see at the onset. And going back, I had my Firekeeper book is now called Wicked as You Wish. It stars a Filipino main character. It's going to be, I think, one of the first Filipino main characters from a top 10 publishing house. in the US, and it's gonna be on sale on March 3, 2021. So, you know, this, oh, 2020, sorry, 2020. It's not 2021, I'm sorry. I was doing a sequel for the Never Tilting World, so that's in my head. That's the one coming out 2021. So basically, if you, like, I am living proof that it is very possible to write for a living. I have no day job. This is something I'm doing 24/7. I'm doing a lot better than the day job I did have. And, you know, this is like a call to action for a lot of you guys who want to write for a living, that yes, it's possible. You only need to, you know, understand what querying is, go through the process, find your agent, see how, like, if your writing style matches with them, and, you know, you can be just like us. Well, here's an example of the query that I made that got me my agent. So basically, I highlighted in red some aspects of it. Like, for example, you're interested in multicultural project and a ghost story to get under your skin. I mentioned that because the agent specifically mentioned it in her website, that this is what she's looking for. And I feel like this is exactly what my book is. So that's what I wrote to sort of hook her into it. So I'm seeking representation for the natural states of dead girls in wealth, blah, blah, blah. It's described as the Grudge meets Dexter in dark. So that's the X meets Y comparison. Well, it's basically in the small town of, actually there are handouts that we were giving out. It should be written there along with Gail. Do you want to talk about it? Okay. So we're going to, here. I have also included the first 10 pages in the email because that is what the agent requested in her website. It's basically, if you want to pitch to me, give me your query plus the first 10 pages of your novel. So this is something that you always have to follow. Every agent requires a very different, very different submission guidelines. And if you don't follow that, you're not going to get her or him, basically. Because I was trying to mentor some writers who were interested in getting an agent, and the agent specifically said, only contact me through my email. And the writer went ahead and tried to contact her on LinkedIn, and I'm like, no, you lost her. You can't do that. When they specifically say you can only do this for them, that's what you do. You can't make your own rules, unfortunately. Here. I'll give it to Gail.
Actually, yeah, there. My book there, I started it, medyo iba kayo rin ng konti. Medyo parang baliktad lang ng konti. Yeah. It's a medical. I write middle grade. 8 to 12 ang actually in target ko. Sa kanya would be 12 to, 12 up, yeah. So yeah, here. A middle grade contemporary set in, I'll just give the highlights. So, a middle grade contemporary set in Metro Manila amidst this controversial war on drugs. Yeah, yeah, it's coming up here. So anyway, there, basically it's based on the story of the book is based on the premise of if you see the black butterfly, somebody you know will die. That superstition that I'm sure all of you are all familiar with, and I'm sure one of you, at least one of you here, has seen the black butterfly and know somebody who's died shortly after. So hindi naman siya ganun kator, So there are a lot of things that was changed from my query. Most explicitly is this one. Every time a brown butterfly lands on someone's stuff, they die within 7 days. That one isn't in the final book anymore. Pero it actually caught my agent's attention. And there, like the brown butterfly thing, if you can see in terms of a setup, this is the inciting incident. Basically, what is the thing that pushes your main character into going into that whole adventure? That's the inciting incident. And then you describe what exactly happens. Yeah. You go into detail about the butterfly, a little bit more about the butterfly. Tapos, anong ginawa nila? They basically decided to have an adventure kasi mamamatay na siya. yun lang ang basically ng ano nun. But, there. Then she starts to realize na baka siguro totoo tong butterfly na to. So, at this point, the stakes should be higher. So, this one is, she must convince the rest of her family to help complete the bucket list or lose the only chance to reconcile her stubborn sister and their 3 dads before the butterfly's warning rings true and sad truly really dies. So, that's the one that, kumbaga, kailangan bigyan mo sa iwan, hindi mo sasabihin yung ending, but bigyan mo sila ng clincher. What is exactly that sentence that will make them want to read more? What are the stakes of your query? Are the stakes of your story? If at this point you can't determine, ano bang mawawala sa main character ko pag nangyari to? Or if I don't accomplish this kind of thing, what will happen to my character? You might wanna revisit your manuscript. Kasi baka walang stakes. Sorry, pero baka nga wala. Kumaga, this is particularly true to specific books na nagkakailangan, they prefer like a high concept, like more or less like, high concept means may pagka-literary siya, but at the same time, commercial siya. So, what that means is, hindi lang mga schools ang nag-order, but also trade bookstores. That's what you call a high concept. So there, at the end, I said 36,000 words. Nakita mo ang dami. Konti, kalahati lang nung kay Rin. So, I appeal to fans of Kate The Seventh Wish and Ali Benjamin's The Thing About Jellyfish Test. A mentor, Filipino-American author Erin Tradicali helped me publish this book. At this point, I just basically gave an overview about the manuscript here and just told them the history na, okay, oy guys, hindi lang ako ang nag-edit nito. I had help from somebody, ganyan. But before you do that, you make sure naman na alam nung author na sinasabi mo sila sa... Hindi pwede na, ay, nagpunta ako sa ano ni Rin. Sasabihin ko si Rin, sabi ni Rin, maganda work ko. Huwag niyong gagawin yon kasi trust me, agents will find out. It's a small community. They talk. So, don't try. Kasi ang mahirap doon, pag nahuli ka, blacklisted ka forever. Siguro makakatanggap lang sa'yo mga newbies na walang kamuwang-muwang sa mundo, pero that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing for your career. So, the thing about the US publishing is that they're built on connections, which is the reason why you need agents in the first place. You rely on your agents' connections to connect you with with publishers who would want to vet. Basically, your agents are vetting your book. So there. I added like a short profile, like Sab, I'm a Filipino, I run a home-based science studio in husband, I also do copywriting on the side. You don't necessarily have to say it, I have this, Meron ako mga nakikita. Kasi that's the thing, I used to be a pitch wars mentor, I also mentored, kasi siyempre, pay it forward. I mentored a few people before I got really busy, and one of the things that nakita ko medyo malaking issue is that mas mahaba pa yung profile kesa dun sa query mismo. Well, at this point, just think na ang kalaban mo, you're competing with thousands and possibly even millions of other aspiring writers. So it has to be the focus has to be your story. It's not yourself. Kasi kahit na feeling mo special ka, I'm pretty sure somebody is more special than you are and thinks they're more special than somebody else. Alam mo yung ganon? Feeling special is like it's an objective hindi it relies on other people. Kumbaga sarili mong yan Hindi lahat ng tao magtitingin sa'yo special ka kung tingin mo sa sarili mo special ka. So dapat yung book mo ang special. That's the thing that you have to remember with querying. Make sure that your book is special. Make it better, revise it. If you can get a mentor, go for it. Just write and write and write until you finally nail that agent and go through all those rejections. Who cares? If you get rejected, everybody gets rejected. Yan lang sa isip nyo. It's not just you. everybody. Everybody, even us. We still get rejected. Like, every time sometimes we give pitches na hindi mag-work out, we get that rejection. So, the rejection journey is not gonna stop with querying. It's gonna keep on and on and on. So that's one thing that you have to remember. Be prepared to face that. It's gonna toughen you up.
We have two sayings in the publishing industry. The first one is, you're not a writer if you haven't been rejected. That is the number one requirement for being a writer. You have had to be rejected. Agents, your mileage may vary when it comes to agents because something that one agent might like might not necessarily be something that another agent would like. And the second one is basically only have the confidence of a mediocre white male writer in your work, but not when you're being rejected. Because they are the worst offenders when it comes to being rejected. And I remember like way back in 2014 or 15, somebody actually assaulted an agent because she rejected his work. Do not be like that. I mean, it's hard because we're all here, but don't do it. Yeah, they will talk, and you will be blacklisted if not arrested. Basically. So we're gonna give the floor to questions and to sort of make it nicer for you guys, like the first five na lang. First 5 people to ask questions can have their pick of an arc of Wicked As You Wish, or No Second Chances, Boyfriend Bracket, No Love Allowed, Till Death, books. We're first. And sir, whatever swag you might like to get from here, once this runs out.
Hi, I'm Lyra. So thank you for doing this talk. So my question is, recently there were 2 instances of writers of color pulling out their books from publication. So 2 questions regarding this. First, I guess I'm curious at the back end part. What do you think the publishers, the agent, the author, what they do from the pull out? And then second, honestly, this is very worrying for me. I think for everyone, you don't see white authors pulling out their books. James Fry literally wrote a book about his lives and still continued publishing. So what are your thoughts about all of this hoopla?
Does anyone want?
So anyway, that's the problem. That's another challenge that everybody here, as people of color, consider tayo, by the way, as people of color sa US. Kasi brown tayo, hindi tayo white. Anyway, that's one of the things about it. People of color, like writers of color in particular, the thing is, the reason why they decided to pull it out, they don't want to cause harm. They realized that their book caused harm based on the arcs. They took it upon themselves to pull it out. That's one of the things about being a writer of color. You know marginalization. You've been hurt yourself by oppressive, the white oppressive system. So alam mo talaga kung paano masaktan. And you would take it upon yourself. The problem with white people, in particular white authors, they don't really care that much. Kasi sanay na sila, it's the status quo. So, sad reality is, unless that you change the entire systemic problem of racism, you're gonna see more authors of color. If there's a problem, it's probably gonna be an author of color who's gonna pull it out, not a white person. Like Rin nga said, like have the confidence of mediocre white man. Because trust me, ang daming mediocre white men who get published, but they feel like they own the world. Kasi sanay sila eh, na, like, even with us, in terms of as a colonized country, there's always a preferential treatment for somebody who's not brown, because it's a kind of reality eh. Tapos sa US, it's still very prevalent. Lahat kanila yung anti-blackness, that's so very common. So if we're gonna go into the US publishing, that's one thing that you have to remember. If you have a problem, if you think your book might have issues, have somebody from that community read it. That's the most responsible thing to do. If not, be prepared for the backlash. Kasi talagang, kung dito sa atin may mga nakakalusot, kasi you gotta admit, like the national NBDB, ang daming organizations in the Philippines are trying to like encourage reading in the local areas. But the thing is, hindi lahat ng tao, lahat ng mga bata, lahat ng mga estudyante, or like people in general will have access to books. Kasi mahal siya. I mean, would you rather just eat food? Or would you rather eat or would you rather read? It's a matter of that kind of question. Eh. So, and this in the Philippines, tandaan nyo, with here, you can probably get away with parang makakalusot ka with other people na yung mga racist jokes and all that. But when it comes to the US, they're much more aware of those things, and it's probably not gonna fly, and you're probably gonna get backlash for it. So, as authors of color, just be prepared for it, be responsible, and you should be fine.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Basically, I'm an in-house agent here in the Philippines. I work as an acquisition coordinator for a publishing book. So, on the perspective of an agent here in the Philippines, have you considered publishing here first before you pitch or before you submit queries abroad? And if now that you have published abroad, are you interested in making a name here in the Philippines in our local publishing scene?
Sorry, to clarify, the question is, if we're aiming to be published abroad, would we also want to focus being published here specifically?
I'm asking if have you first tried here, or you went straight submitting queries there, or if so, what would be your recommendations for the publishing scene here in the Philippines, so that us agents could, before we, before we lose such talents such as yourself to the foreign agents, what can we offer to you authors to publish here in the Philippines? Thank you.
For me personally, it's by no fault of the agents that for me that I wanted to look for an agent abroad. It was more the publishing houses here. Not a lot of them are open to certain kinds of books, certain categories. Like, for example, I'm not sure if you're aware, but Visprint, which is a independent publishing house that gained traction and then housed a lot of speculative fiction writers, for example, is going to be closing within the next 2 years or so. So local authors who want to be published locally and have books like that will no longer have a local publishing house to go to. So for me, I think it's on the end of the publishing houses that they need to be willing to branch out. Hopefully, they do that and accept different kinds of books, so that, like, for me, if there was a book that I thought maybe would be difficult for the international market to understand or to sell, but I think would do well with the Filipino audience because it's a very Filipino story, I would definitely pursue it here. So that's just me.
I'm gonna say what Steph is too polite to say. And it's that a lot of publishing houses here are just basically vanity presses. And when I say vanity presses, I mean they make money off the author and not of the market. Okay? When an editor offers to publish your book, but also at the same time asks you to pay him for editing your book, that is not legal in the United States. This is not legal in New York. You would be blacklisted as an agency and as a publishing house if you ever did a lot of the processes that we do here. And I want to say that it's partly because there's a lot of writers here and there's a lot of readers, but there's not a lot of support. And I don't really want to like 100% put the blame on the publishing houses here. It's mainly because we're a third world country. Reading is not the priority if basic necessities are hard to come by. So it's hard enough to earn a living here being published locally. And I frankly don't blame people for wanting to be published abroad where there is a big chance of, being able to write for a living, for a change. And I think that's what a lot of writers here want, but it's not something they have, even though they're good enough to deserve it.
Yeah, can I lang, wait lang. For me, for my process kasi, I realized it's easier to come home than leave home. So what I did was I thought about leaving home first. Because I knew that if I was published abroad, I would have my books available here. If I have my books available here, if I started here, I never conceived of the idea that my books will be available there. So that was the hardest part, I think. Not that you wanted to leave, but it's because there are no resources that can help you gain a broader audience. So I learned that through the reading culture here. Diba? Bestsellers abroad also become bestsellers here. When I was in college, everybody was reading Da Vinci Code. Okay, so everybody was reading Harry Potter. But do you see people reading local books? No. And that's the heartbreaking thing that is a reality here. And even in other countries. India, UAE, name the country. It's only conceivable in China because it's a huge market. So if you publish there, there's a possibility you can publish elsewhere. Because you're reaching 1 billion people right away. Right? So, yun lang, it's that sad reality, and until today it's still like that.
Actually, I'm kind of being nicer. But if you go to the bookstores, just take a look. Where are the locally published books shelved under? All of them are bunched together in Filipiniana. So unless that kind of mentality changes, just because you're a Filipino writer and you write a Filipino-oriented book, once that kind of mentality shifts to you being, your book is going to be defined by the genre, but not as you, as a Filipino, in a way. I think that's the time that you can expect writers are going to see an opportunity here in the Philippines.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I think that's the thing that we should revolutionize in the publishing scene here in the Philippines. That's why I'm asking you, the authors, what do you think should be the action on the publisher's point of view?
Yeah, basically, there. Push it. As in talagang, pag nakita niya sa Filipiniana, make sure that it's correctly under contemporary, or if it should be under fantasy. Yung ganun ba? Like, nakakalungkot, like, yung Moy Moy Palaboy? Moy ba yun? Moy Moy book? Yeah. It's under, Filipiniana, and it's supposed to be under children's books. Yung mga ganong certain, little, but that's gonna matter a lot.
First. Wait,
Hi, ladies. So first off, I want to congratulate everybody who got the book deals and to say a good luck to everyone who's currently querying. My question is for anyone who wants to answer. Um, how does being a published author compare to what you thought it would be like, and what were some of your expectations that were met, and what were some that you ended up feeling foolish for even dreaming about?
Does anybody wanna take it? We'll go with Gail because her book's coming out. Her first book is coming out.
I'd say so far it's not exceeding expectations. That's all I can say at the moment because we can't announce certain things yet. So that's all I can say. But it's pagka nandun ka, it's surreal, basically. Like you don't think na it's happening to you. Basically, that's the general feeling. Unusual.
Another, like, two more questions? Yes. If you guys have any more questions after this, there's still more, like, book swag if you guys want to get.
Hi. I read somewhere that it's better to pitch to a publisher, and if you already have a publisher, then get an agent. No? Because that's what Neil Gaiman says in his website.
No, Neil Gaiman is very different because he knew people in the industry already. So he was, when he was asked to write for Sandman, for instance, he already knew somebody who was giving him the job, and getting an agent was actually so that the agent could handle all his, like, the legalese and the contracts and everything else. But he knew people. That's why he got the job.
Okay, so just as a follow-up, what what do you say about people saying enter contests or competitions, then if you win, then you get an agent?
Research the contest first. There's a lot of, like, scams out there, and it's very easy to find out which ones are authentic and which aren't, because yeah, it is part of our if you guys want the PowerPoint, we have a list of, like, frequently asked questions there also. So we've answered a lot of those stuff. Last one, Miss.
Congratulations, everyone. You are so young and you've already way up there. My first question is that, what do you think of your competition of the proliferating ebooks around here? My second question is, what are the other perk-ups that you are having from out of your publications? For example, do you do international book signings, such as those? And my last question is, being successful writers, do you have in mind some kind of social responsibilities for the Filipino readers? Thank you.
Should I? Okay. First of all, ma'am. Sige, ako pwede na.
Competition with ebooks.
First of all, ma'am, I'm not young. I'm 37 years old. So, you know, age is just a number when it comes to publishing. You can publish your first book at 50 and still succeed. With regards to ebooks here, I'll put them into categories, like locally and internationally. Locally, well, since we're all, like, we have publishing houses in the US, we don't really look at local ebooks necessarily as a competition, because that's not because when you say publishing houses in the US, they usually focus on North America. So they don't really look at ebooks here as something that's part of their market niche. And internationally speaking, they crunched the numbers, they looked at the statistics, and they say that hard physical copies still sell more than ebooks. So I think it's primarily because there's a lot of really expensive ebooks, and people feel like they earn, like they get more of their money's worth if they. if they have a physical copy in their hands. So right now their focus is still on physical copies. And I'm sorry, what was the next question?
What are the other perks that you get? For example, do you go abroad and do your book signing? Free hotels?
Back in 2017, I went on an international book tour for the Bone Witch. My publishing house, First Books, mostly comped me for all the food, the hotel stays, and I was invited to several book festivals, including like Brooklyn Fest, Boston Teen Festival. I was asked many times to go to Y'all Fest, but I couldn't go because I had a kid. And the thing about being here in the Philippines is that they don't comp all your expenses. For it's the standard for publishing houses to pay for everything for their authors the instant they go. No, yeah, they officially go on tour. So on the first day of tour, that's when they start paying for everything. But plane tickets going there, that's still something I had to pay. And it's the same with all authors, even when they're in the US. So for example, the book tour starts in New York, but somebody's flying in from Arkansas or something, or Arizona. They have to pay for the flight from Arizona to New York, and then from New York going back. So that's the basic, it's like a basic standard. It depends also on publishing houses, like how big they are, if they're small presses or whatnot. But that's, like if you're coming here, especially if you're coming here and the plane tickets tend to be expensive, then yeah, we're gonna have to pay for it. But I wanna say it's really more than worth it. Just to know the readers you see there, the book signings you participate in, and it does drum up promotion.
I think the biggest perk of all is the advance. You can actually live off of the advance here in the Philippines. That's why in the US, if you're gonna query, a lot of their advice is don't quit your day job in the US. Here, you can actually quit your day job as long as you consistently publish a book a year, at least a book a year. Because you can. With the advance alone, you can live off of that. That's why it's very beneficial to be based here, not there. Diba? That's I think the big one of the biggest. Diba?
You know what the super perk is? I have experienced this already kasi being here is that you have the internet already. You have Skype. And that is like the best feeling ever. Pagka may school visit ka. Kasi I primarily write children's books. So if you see like kids, like nagkakandara pa sila yung magtatanong ng question sa'yo, kahit nasabihin natin yung school visit nyo sa kanila sa US is like madaling araw dito, it's so worth it. Like when you see like a kid perk up, like what happened with me, I had like a Skype call. I had a Skype call with a class in Chicago recently, last February 1, I think, for the World Read Aloud Day. I met with a class, and then there was this Phil-Am kid na the moment nakita niya yung book cover ko, she was like, talagang numindang siya, tumakbo sa harap, ako dyan, parang so that's the best feeling. I mean, you have all the money and the stuff, but there's also that great feeling of seeing a child see themselves represented in your work. So, yeah.
Wait, there was a last question.
Yeah,
right?
the last question is, as Filipino authors, what kind of social responsibilities do you have in mind in the future or maybe sometime?
Well, I think it's on all of us to sort of write more Filipino into our works, especially since we have the chance for an international audience. I mean, I know there was a speaker early on who was talking about the global Filipino community and how proud they were for that. And when he said that, my mind was going, let's not look at the global Filipino when we have so many homegrown, talented Filipinos here in the first place. And that's what we need to start with. We need to show that people living here in the Philippines has just as much right to be published and to be given a voice in the international publishing community. And I think that's the number one priority we, all of us here, believe in.
Well, thank you very much. If you are invited to be a speaker in our university, for example, will that be free? Yeah, okay, so that's your social responsibility. Yeah.
Just give us
Thank
food.
you very much. Yeah, and accommodation. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay po, a round of applause for our speakers, Miss Gail Villanueva, Cara Bodegon, Kate Evangelista, Rin Chupeco, and Steph Tran.
If you guys have more questions, by the way, feel free to approach us afterwards. We still have some stuff that if you guys wanna go ahead. If you have more questions about querying, like how to query, like guidance from us or whatever, please feel free to do so.
Okay po. So once again, thank you to our speakers. The Traditional Publishing in the U.S., A Guide to Seeking Agents and Book Deals is now over.